Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. On our show today, I'm excited to have Dennis Klemp, CEO and principal of Vision to Results Consulting, Coaching, and Training out of St. Louis, Missouri. Dennis, welcome to the show. Glad you're here.
Thanks. First of all, Mark, thank you for having me.
Wow,
I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you.
Man, this is going to be fun. I already like where this thing's going. So, all right, I'm going to hit it right off. So you've had a really cool career. You've experienced a ton of stuff. You've seen a lot. You've met a lot of people. You've led a lot of people. You've been led by a lot of people. You've seen some excellent leaders and some not so excellent leaders, I'm guessing. If you had to narrow it down to one or two things that separate the excellent leaders from the not so excellent leaders, what would that be?
Wow. It's a good question. I would say, first of all, that some of the best leaders that I've met, some of the best leaders that I've had the opportunity to work with, have always been models for success. They walk the talk. It's not theory. It's, actual application. And it's the execution that really makes the difference for most of those folks. On the other hand, I certainly have seen some very poor leaders who don't really do that. They tend to think they're smart. In fact, they think they're so smart they got the people side figured out, when in fact nobody really has that figured out yet.
Right.
Anyway, we're working on it. But so in terms of what I know, is that usually when we go into a client, we start with their top producers, the people who are really doing the job great. And we sit with them or go out on sales calls with them or work with their managers or their upper leadership team. And we study, what are they doing? What are they saying that's really working?
Mm-hmm.
And we also tackle probably a couple of things that aren't working so well. And what I've seen in my career is that, and I mentioned this early on, I think meeting people where they are is a big part of really being effective at coaching, and not assuming anything, but actually seeing them in action, as opposed to just handing out general platitudes. It's like, and I think too, the other thing that I've learned is that the more specific you are in terms of expectations, the more likely you are that people are going to be able to execute those. So, for example, somebody might say, hey guys, y'all need to be more professional. And I would say, what are the behaviors that go into being professional? Is it being on time? Is it showing up and doing the best you can? Is it showing up early? What are the behaviors that their top producers are actually doing to generate the results, and doing it consistently, so it's not a one-off kind of a situation?
I like that. I want to go back to the beginning of
Sure.
of that, and one of the things you said was you like the best leaders walk the walk and talk the talk. Is that right?
Correct.
So one of the phrases that I use in that is somebody who is unapologetically authentic, right? They understand who they are, and that's who they are, whether they're in the boardroom, whether on the manufacturing floor, whether they're out in public with their family. They're that same way all the time. What that's not easy, right? That's easy to be said, right? And you and I, because we've been around this, for a long, long time,
Sure.
maybe we're just old and stodgy, and we're stubborn, and now we just want to be who we are. But I will tell you, when I first allowed myself to be unapologetically authentic, I was probably about 40, and everything switched for me. Like, that became really powerful. So, first of all, I guess, are you seeing the same thing? And then the second piece is, how do you teach people to allow themselves to be unapologetically authentic?
That's a really tough question. I think in terms of, I think how we learn is by seeing
Mm,
and actually doing.
yep.
So, for example, when we work with groups too, we use what I call a skills transfer process, where you say, okay, let's say you want to create rapport with a client. What are the behaviors that go into that? What do you say? How do you do that? You then explain why it's important, how it helps the individual you're working with,
Mhm,
and then you give them a demonstration of what that actually looks like. So it's explain, demonstrate, then it's a matter of practicing whatever that skill is, creating rapport, delivering an agenda statement for a meeting, whatever it might look like, and you have them practice that along with feedback. So as they get better, they get positive reinforcement, positive feedback, and they generally I deliver like typically four positives to every one area of opportunity.
okay.
So for example, it's I might even talk about somebody who is really good at creating trust and rapport. And I'll say, so why is it important for us to create trust and rapport with the people that work for us? And there's four key answers. One of which is that you're reliable. You do what you say you're going to do.
Hmm.
Second is you have a level of intimacy. You know what their job is about, and you've been in their shoes and know how that goes. Um, there is credibility. You got to know your stuff,
Hmm.
and you can't just wing things and hope that it works out pretty well. And then lastly is something that I find most leaders, at least initially, have a hard time with, and that is what I call a selfless orientation.
Oh,
Is that it's about them, it's not about you,
uh-huh.
right? So when you combine all four of those, the top producers I've worked with um, tend to be people who create trust and rapport
Hmm.
very quickly,
Hmm.
either at a high level or even mid level or whatever, wherever you are.
What's
But I
what's the
know
what's the best way to do that? Because I agree with you. I think that is so important, but man, that is not a natural skill, I don't think.
you're correct. Absolutely. It is not a natural skill. It is, how I teach that is number one, I try to model the behaviors.
Hmm.
I try to walk the talk.
Sure.
So, or I identify somebody on the team who is already doing it. Maybe I think a lot of top producers do a lot of things intuitively well.
Hmm.
Um, and when they do that, they are just intuitively doing it. They're not doing it intentionally, on purpose, or consistently.
Hmm.
So, pointing out what those behaviors look like and what they're saying and what they're doing, um, and helping them recognize the value that it has for the person they're working with, I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. You talk about taking a look at your highest performers, and then you're kind of molding them into leaders. That's also challenging too, right? Is just because somebody's good at sales, for example,
Yes,
doesn't
yeah,
necessarily make them a great sales manager.
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
How
And
how do you how do you walk that tightrope?
I've seen that in plenty of companies, my friend. I
Uh-huh.
think part of it, Mark, part of it is actually tackling them in on their turf.
Uh,
So, for example, I don't think I have a motto: ask more, tell less, um, practice more, talk less,
Uh-huh.
and actually do more than explain.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So part of that, how do I actually do that? Is I will put one of the team members in a situation, either on a sales call or in a meeting. I will put them on the spot initially, and we'll go through what I call a pre-meeting planning process.
Okay.
And the pre-meeting planning process, and by the way, I am a big believer in process.
Uh-huh.
And the reason you put anything in a process, as you obviously know, is that when you do that, it's repeatable, it's shareable,
Uh-huh.
and it's improvable.
Uh,
So, for example, a typical sales process might be pre-call planning, might be developing rapport, might be discovery, might be solutions or options, and then addressing concerns, and finally moving to the next physical action item.
huh.
So it's more about process than it is. So I think when you put people into a process environment, you tend to have repeatable behaviors.
Uh-huh.
And when people become consciously aware, it's like you go through different stages of learning where you're unconsciously incompetent and then eventually become consciously competent. Um, and then with practice, you become unconsciously competent, right?
Sure.
So it's about helping them walk through those stages. And again, meeting people where they are. It's one of the goals when I work with top producers is to figure out what the top people are doing that the mid tier need to do more of or less of. In my experience, people don't want to know what they're doing wrong. They just want to know, what do I need to do more of? What do I need to do less of?
Uh-huh.
And everybody wants or should, I say should, that's probably not the right nomenclature, but everybody who wants to get better should be somebody who you can actually help get better, even
Yeah.
if it's only 1 or 2%. And it's by zeroing in, just like I said, it's like, what are you doing well? Here are 4 behaviors that I want you to continue to do and keep moving with. And then there's one thing, if there's, and you may have a list of 10 things that they could do better or improve. And then you select the one that's going to have the biggest impact
Hmm.
and immediate impact. And then you create an assignment for them to actually practice that behavior as often as they can over the next 3, 4, 5 days.
Uh-huh.
And then accountability is a big thing too.
Accountability is huge. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree with you. It's and you said it. I think we might have been offline when we were just having a conversation, but I think I've heard you say before that people don't go into it wanting to do a bad job. Everybody wants to do a good job, right? So they have a desire to get better. And one of the roles that you play is helping them uncover that desire and the understanding of how to do that. Is that right?
Ab- Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, it's a little bit, coaching's a little bit Socratic method.
Hmm.
So if I tell them, here, you need to improve this behavior, that's a different story. But if they uncover it themselves, they are more inclined to move on it, act on it, and actually do something about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
So,
sure.
we arrive, helping them arrive. Um, good coaches, great coaches, actually, not only model the behaviors, but they tend to help other people um, discover those behaviors themselves
Hmm.
and begin to practice more of it more often and more consistently. So it's all about creating that. When you have a process in place, Mark, you don't have to think about where the
Hmm.
conversation is going.
Right.
You're not worried about what am I going to say next. The process allows you to freeform and really listen to the client and really um, do bring value to the conversation, because that's what you're hired to do, right?
Yeah. Don't you think that the best fill in the blank, sales leader, leader, salesperson, whatever, they take the process and they understand the process, but the best ones make it their own,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
meaning they put their own personality on it, right?
Absolutely. And without that, you have no human, I think, um, you were asking a little bit more about, too, just observing top performers. One of the things that I know about top performers and people who really blow it out in the top 10%, they understand that the simple human behaviors, how good is your smile? How good is your handshake?
Mhm.
How good is your eye contact? How strong are you from an enthusiasm perspective? How excited are you to help this person? I think being able to communicate those and doing it well um, immediately helps break down barriers and helps people who who didn't think they needed help really get the help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Dennis, this has been awesome. We're coming up on our time. I like to ask one last question
Sure.
of the folks, and that's if you think back to 21-year-old Dennis, what's one thing that you wish after all these years that you've learned and all the things that you've been involved in and seen people and all that kind of stuff, if you were to go back and share with 21-year-old Dennis one thing that would have made his life easier, better, whatever, what do you think that would be?
Wow. I think we're back to the simple human behaviors,
Yeah.
right? It's doing those consistently and being genuinely interested
Yeah.
and, not scripted, but just really knowing the material well enough that you can go through the process appropriately and and really identify what the client or the person is trying to say, whether they're on your team or whether there's somebody who wants to be on your team.
Yep. Yep. That's great. Dennis, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. I've really enjoyed getting to know you on here and sharing your insights with our audience. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, Mark. And
Yep.
and I appreciate the ability to share anything that helps people add value. Um, if people need to reach out to me, you can obviously reach me on LinkedIn. And the last name is Klemp with a K, Klemp, as opposed to frequently people do C. So, but
Awesome.
that's very cool. Thank you again.
Uh,
And I really appreciate and value the time you've invested with me.
Oh, this has been a blast. This has been a blast. Folks, we've done it again. We've uncovered another amazing leader that has some insights that you may or may not have heard before, but I know they will help you in your career. One last reminder, Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an exciting opportunity for executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.